Nothing specific triggered my suspicions at first, just a feeling that something had shifted between us. After 5 years of marriage, I noticed my wife started changing small habits, not dramatic changes that screamed affair, but subtle shifts that only someone living with her would catch. She began working out at a new gym across town instead of the one 5 minutes from our house. Her phone was always within reach, never left on counters or tables like before. When the notifications came in, she'd glance quickly and turn the phone face down. We met at my cousin's wedding. I was a groomsman, she was the wedding coordinator. We hit it off while dealing with a cake disaster, both keeping cool when everyone else panicked. That calm partnership defined our relationship for years. I run a small event planning business now. The hours can be long, but I'm usually home by 7. My wife works at a publishing house as an editor. We had a good routine, comfortable and predictable, until things started feeling different. The first real crack appeared when I grabbed her iPad to check our calendar for an upcoming family visit. A message notification popped up from someone named Jay with a gym emoji next to the name. The preview showed only a fragment about meeting up. My stomach tightened. Could have been innocent, a workout buddy, a new friend, but her reaction when I casually mentioned it that evening told a different story. She fumbled her wine glass, made a joke about her workout accountability partner that sounded rehearsed, changed the subject quickly. That night she took a long shower. When she came to bed, she turned away instead of curling up against me like usual. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, that notification replaying in my mind. Perhaps I was overthinking. Maybe it really was just a gym friend. But deep down, I knew something wasn't right. I caught myself watching her more closely after that, noticing how she'd step outside for certain calls, how she'd mention client dinners that ran mysteriously late, the way her eyes would light up at certain texts, then darken when she noticed me watching. I didn't want to be that suspicious husband checking phone records or following her around, but I couldn't shake the feeling that the foundation of our marriage was starting to crack. Sleep became difficult. I'd wake up at 3 a.m. with questions circling my mind. Had I missed other signs? Was I imagining things? What should I do next? I decided to pay attention without accusation, to observe patterns without jumping to conclusions, to gather information before any confrontation. Looking back, I handled those early days of suspicion all wrong. I should have trusted my gut sooner, but I wanted to believe I was wrong. The truth is, nobody wants to admit their marriage might be falling apart. It's easier to ignore the signs than face the possibility that the person who promised to love you forever might be breaking that promise with someone else. So I watched and waited, and the cracks only widened. Men, just pay attention. I keep saying this over and over. Just pay attention. In my case, I didn't catch on until about the second time she changed her attire. A new pattern emerged in our daily lives. My wife began mentioning a coworker named James during casual conversations about work. Nothing suspicious at first, just a new team member on her publishing projects. But soon, James appeared in every work story. James thought her editing suggestions were brilliant. James brought her favorite coffee to morning meetings. James shared her taste in obscure novels. If your woman starts mentioning another man quite often, that's quite possibly a warning sign. I noticed she dressed differently on the day she mentioned having team meetings. More effort, better outfits, makeup that she usually saves for special occasions. One evening, she mentioned needing to stay late to finish a project deadline with her team. I called her office to ask if she wanted me to bring dinner. Well, the receptionist informed me that most of the staff, including my wife's department, left hours ago. When she came home near midnight, her explanation about working at a coffee shop after the office closed made sense on the surface. But the perfume she wore wasn't the same one she left the house wearing that morning. I began documenting inconsistencies, not in a creepy stalker way, but recording facts in a simple note on my phone. Dates when stories didn't match, Times when her location made no sense, her gym schedule expanded mysteriously. 2 hour workouts became the norm. When she returned, her hair would be perfectly styled rather than messy from exercise. Sometimes she'd come home without the post workout glow you'd expect. One evening, when she claimed to be at the book club, her best friend called our house looking for her. The friend seemed surprised to hear my wife wasn't home, then quickly covered by pretending she'd forgotten which night their club met. That slip confirmed what I already suspected. The lies were not just in my head. I still avoided checking her phone or email. That felt like crossing a line I wasn't ready to cross. Instead, I started paying attention, especially to our credit card statements. I noticed unexplained charges at restaurants, cash withdrawals that never seemed to result in any purchases I could identify, time gaps in her schedule that she'd vaguely label errands, but that stretched for hours. The breaking point came when I discovered a separate credit card statement in her desk drawer while looking for stamps, recurring charges for a storage unit about 30 minutes from us, purchases from stores we'd never shopped at together. My hand shook as I took photos of the statement with my phone. I carefully returned everything exactly as I'd found it. That night, she mentioned wanting to plan a vacation together, talked about our future as if nothing were wrong, cuddled up to me on the couch while suggesting destinations. The contrast between her words and her actions made me feel physically ill. I excused myself and locked myself in the bathroom. I almost wanted to scream, but I didn't. Splashed cold water on my face. The evidence was mounting, but I wasn't ready for confrontation without a plan. I needed to protect myself financially, emotionally, legally. I slept in the guest room that night, complaining about a migraine. In reality, I couldn't bear lying next to someone living such a profound lie. She didn't even notice when I didn't come to bed, or pretend not to notice. Either way, we were now two strangers sharing a house, one of us living a double life, the other documenting the collapse of everything we'd built. Most men wouldn't act this way. A good portion of us men might resort to violence, but a woman that cheats on you is not worth your freedom. The morning after discovering the secret credit card, I called in sick to work. Instead of staying home, I drove to a small cafe across town and called a divorce attorney. The free consultation lasted 2 hours. I learned about the importance of documentation, financial protection, about how to prepare for what came next. I opened a separate bank account that afternoon and transferred half of our savings, not to hide money, but to protect it. According to my attorney, this was perfectly legal if I disclosed it during divorce proceedings. Next came the difficult step of telling someone. I chose my older brother. His marriage had survived infidelity years earlier, though they ultimately decided to work through it. I needed perspective from someone who'd been through this. Over lunch, I laid out the evidence, the unexplained absences, the secret credit card, the lies that had become our normal communication. My brother asked the one question I'd been avoiding, whether I wanted to save my marriage or end it. Sometimes in cases like this, when a man is methodical and takes his time to gather evidence, he might be mentally checked out. I didn't have an answer yet. Part of me wanted to believe there could be an explanation. The rational part knew better. That weekend, I met with a financial advisor recommended by my attorney. We discussed the mortgage on our house, retirement accounts, and how to divide assets fairly. Not because I wanted revenge, but because I needed protection. All these preparations happened during my regular workday or on evenings when my wife claimed to be working late. I became as skilled at hiding my activities as she was at hiding hers. I documented everything, created a timeline of suspicious events, photographed financial records, backed everything up on my removable hard drive my wife couldn't access. Through it all, I maintained my normal behavior at home. We still ate dinner together when she was home, still discussed certain topics, still performed the motions of marriage while the substance had evaporated. I began preparing emotionally too, meeting with the therapist to process my feelings, building the support system I need after confrontation. My attorney advised against confronting her until all my protections were in place. Emotions run high during these conversations. Better to be prepared before lighting the match. 3 weeks into my preparation, I got an unexpected confirmation. My wife mentioned needing to work late again. Instead of calling her office, I drove past the address of the storage unit I'd found on her credit card statement. The timing couldn't have been more perfect or painful. I watched from my parked car as my wife's car pulled up. Minutes later, another car arrived. A man got out, tall, well-dressed, confident. It looked like James from our office. They embraced in a way that left no doubt about their relationship. Completely unaware of my presence, they entered the storage unit together, closing the door behind them. I sat stunned. Despite all the evidence, seeing it with my own eyes hit differently. Their secret meeting place wasn't even creative, just a storage unit converted into some kind of private space away from prying eyes. I didn't wait to see more, didn't follow them, didn't confront them, just drove away with a strange sense of clarity. I think this is the first story I talked about a storage unit. Interesting. That night, when she returned, I watched her with a new understanding. The woman across the dinner table was a stranger wearing my wife's face, someone capable of looking me in the eyes while living a completely separate life. I finalized my preparations that week, secured a month-to-month lease on a small apartment, moved important documents to a safe deposit box, completed the inventory of things we both shared with photos and approximate values. My attorney reviewed everything and said I was ready. Now, I just needed the right moment, not out of vengeance, but to maximize the protection of my dignity and financial security. I chose the evening of our upcoming anniversary dinner, the reservation she made weeks ago at her favorite restaurant. Everything was in place. A new apartment is furnished with basics, support system alerted, legal documentation organized. All that remained was the truth. Our anniversary morning arrived. 5 years of marriage, though the last several months had been fiction. My wife seemed particularly attentive, made breakfast, gave me a card with flowing handwriting about love and forever, kissed me before leaving for work. I spent the day finalizing details. One last meeting with my attorney confirmed everything was in order. Divorce papers prepared, financial protections in place. That evening, I arrived at the restaurant first, selected a quiet corner table for privacy, ordered a drink, and waited. My wife arrived looking beautiful and confident. New dress, hair perfect, the woman I'd fallen in love with years ago, now a stranger. We ordered drinks, made small talk about nothing important. She reached across the table to hold my hand, her wedding ring catching the candlelight. When she excused herself to the restroom, I placed a manila envelope on her side of the table. On it, I wrote 2 simple words, "For you." Inside, I placed everything. The envelope contained photos of her and James entering the storage unit, screenshots from her email I found when her laptop was left open when I decided to finally look, a copy of the secret credit card statement showing purchases from their private space, a timeline of her lives over the past months, with dates and times when her stories contradicted reality. Also inside, divorce papers, already signed by me. I placed my house key and wedding ring on top of the envelope, paid the bill in advance. Then I walked out of the restaurant before she even returned from the restroom. I didn't need to see her reaction. I didn't need confrontation. The evidence would speak for itself, and my absence would say everything words couldn't. Her eyes darted around the restaurant, suddenly aware of how public this moment was, how exposed she'd become if she created a scene. I left without another word, no dramatic speeches, just quiet dignity as I walked away from 5 years of shared history and several months of lies. The new apartment welcomed me with empty walls and silence. The divorce process was easier than I expected. Her initial shock gave way to negotiation. The evidence I'd gathered prevented any serious disputes over the division of assets. My attorney called it one of the cleanest cases she'd handled. No vindictive moves, no emotional outbursts that could complicate legal proceedings. just a clear eyed dissolution of a contract that had already been broken. 6 months later, I stood in a courthouse hallway with signed final papers, legally single again, financially intact, beginning to heal emotionally. Some friends asked if my calculated approach to the divorce felt satisfying, if the look on her face when I presented the evidence gave me the revenge I'd wanted. The truth is, revenge was never the goal. Protection was, dignity was, the opportunity to rebuild without the shadow of betrayal following me forward. I learned valuable lessons from those difficult months about the importance of trusting my instincts, about the strength found in careful planning rather than emotional reactions, about the power of moving forward rather than getting stuck in anger. Sometimes the most devastating response to betrayal isn't dramatic confrontation, but calm, methodical removal of yourself from the situation. I have started to rebuild my life piece by piece, expanded my business, reconnected with people who matter the most to me, developed new friendships, and eventually, cautiously, began dating again. The pain faded gradually, replaced by gratitude for the warning signs I eventually heeded and the new beginning they ultimately provided. Some lessons must be learned the hard way. This certainly was, but it led to something better than revenge. It led to freedom. Men, I will say this: not every man that was born beats their chest like Tarzan or moves like Flash Gordon when it comes to infidelity. Infidelity will affect everyone differently. Some men will have backbone right away and leave, or some men, it will take them a little longer to find it. Until next time.